All right, let's talk some more politics. Politics of COVID. One of my favorite things to talk about because they're so pleasant. It always brings out the best in people, right? So, one of the latest tidbits of news is that the governor of New York State, who is no longer Andrew Cuomo, but Hochul? Kathy Hochul. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. Sorry. Kathy Hochul, governor of New York, has said that she, has well, there's a vaccine mandate that all healthcare workers have to be vaccinated. And if you do not get vaccinated by today, this Monday, you are out of a job. You won't get unemployment benefits. You're just out.
Today is a significant deadline. It reflects my priority to just stop this virus dead in its tracks. We are over it. We are done. We want to move on. And the only way we can do that is to ensure that everyone is vaccinated, but particularly individuals who are taking care of the people who are sick. My job number one in this state is to keep people safe. Clear, simple. There's no way to cloud that. There's no gray area. I need to keep people in this state safe. And we'll be nation leading with our mandate, which strikes at midnight tonight, when everyone is expected in a hospital in the state of New York or a healthcare facility to have been vaccinated. I will be signing an executive order to give me the emergency powers necessary to address these shortages where they occur. That's going to allow me to deploy the National Guard, who are medically trained, deploy people who've been retired, who may have had a license lapse, bring in people from elsewhere. That is not my first position, though, my friends. My desire is to have the people who've been out there continue to work in their jobs, work in them safely, and to all the other healthcare workers who are vaccinated, they also deserve to know that the people they're working with will not get them sick.
So, there's a lot of people cheering this on as a necessary move to, stop the spread of COVID. But a few things. Well, first of all, if you're vaccinated, you can still spread COVID. That has been shown in the data. You're probably less likely to spread it, but you can still spread it, which is why in hospitals, nurses who are vaccinated, doctors who are vaccinated, are still required to wear masks to help prevent the spread of COVID, even if they're vaccinated. Vaccination will mostly protect the people themselves. So you're protected from sick patients if you get vaccinated, which is why I think that all nurses and doctors and healthcare workers should get vaccinated for their own safety. Even if they've gotten sick, I think it does help the overall immunity. Better safe than sorry. This is what I've been saying since the beginning of this pandemic. I think you should. I think that's smart. I think everyone should get vaccinated. But firing all unvaccinated healthcare workers in the state of New York because they won't get vaccinated it strikes me as wrong on a number of levels. First of all, ethically dubious, right? Morally dubious. A lot of these healthcare workers probably did get sick, and maybe they think that's enough to protect them from the virus. And I think that's a reasonable position. Even if I think they should still get vaccinated, I think if you've been sick, you already have some immunity, you have an immune response, and you are basically within the same ballpark as vaccinated people. Second of all, a lot of these healthcare workers, unvaccinated healthcare workers, did work throughout 2020 and 2021 in these hospitals and other healthcare scenarios on the front lines or very near the front lines during a deadly pandemic when they were desperately, desperately needed. Imagine for a moment, if you will, working through that hell and then coming out the other end of it and getting fucking fired. I mean, just imagine that. That's so horrible. You've got all these brave men and women who have worked to stop the spread of COVID and to help sick and dying patients, and you're going to fire them now. Cool. That's great. Instead of cheering that, maybe we should stand in solidarity with our fellow workers, even if they have maybe different opinions than us on something like the vaccine, or for whatever the reasons may be. There are other concerns with the vaccine that I think, again, probably don't outweigh COVID, but people are allowed to have concerns with what is relatively new. A new vaccine that has only been around in 2020, 2021. But we're going to see a lot of people cheering this. I tweeted somebody today, some random person who's like, raise your hand if you think this should be done in all 50 states. And this was actually, okay, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but this is because the governor is saying that she'll bring in National Guard, medically trained National Guard, to fill the positions of these fired healthcare workers. We'll get to that in a little bit, but people are cheering on the National Guard being brought in to replace people who have now lost their livelihoods and their benefits and their unemployment into the gauntlet of the American capitalist machine. Cool. Very, very progressive of you guys. Finally, I find it logistically bonkers, quite frankly. Logistically bonkers to fire all these people from all these different healthcare systems within New York and try to replace them. I mean, staffing a hospital is no easy thing, right? Staffing any business is no easy thing, but a hospital has so many moving pieces. And what we've seen, and I've seen this firsthand, well, I've seen this secondhand, I'll say. My girlfriend is a nurse and was a nurse throughout the pandemic. And at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of people were laid off from hospitals. A lot of nurses were laid off. And then a lot of travel nurses had to be brought on at ridiculous levels of pay to simply staff. And as the pandemic wore on, a lot of other nurses just plain quit. A lot of healthcare workers walked away from this because it was all too depressing and difficult. And now we're going to just fire them en masse and try to replace them with National Guard and traveling nurses. I should do like a 9-month program in nursing and become a traveling nurse. You could make bank in that job right now, partially because of the poor management of our healthcare facilities, of hospitals and whatnot, and partly because of the bad politics of American healthcare. And now we're seeing it, just in the arrogance and the folly of governors like the New York governor. I understand why people want these kind of workers to be vaccinated. It makes perfect sense. But taking these sort of egregiously outrageous steps that I frankly find authoritarian and anti-worker and anti-dignity, I find it to be foolish and cruel. And I don't think it's going to help people. I don't think it's going to help people the way that I think it's all just for show. I think that the people most at risk not getting vaccinated in these scenarios are the healthcare workers themselves. And if that's a risk that they want to take, I don't think it's the governor or any sort of politician who can mandate that, unless it's at a, state-run facility. And then I understand a little bit, but I still think that the facilities themselves should probably be where this is stemming from. Just like I say that mask mandates should come from local communities and school boards, not from on high. I say that individual hospitals and doctors' offices, they should be the ones who are requiring that as a condition of employment, because businesses are allowed to do that. If I own a business selling zucchini bread, I could mandate that all my bakers have vaccines or not let them work for me. That's totally my right. But I don't want the governor to tell all bakers that all bakers who aren't vaccinated have to get fired tomorrow. And I don't think that, I know that this is healthcare versus bakery, but I mean, both of these things are jobs with workers and businesses. And we are seeing an overreaction from the powers that be. We saw, I think, during Trump, an underreaction, and now we're seeing an overreaction. And I think that it's going to be the normal. This is going to be the little guy. It's going to be the workers. It's going to be poor people. It's going to be the middle class and the working class that are going to be affected by this the most. So, by all means, let's grab some carrots. Let's grab some honey. Let's get people to get vaccinated. Let's have a vaccination stimulus. Let's give bonuses to all healthcare workers who get vaccinated. Let's give them free healthcare or something. I don't know. Let's make incentives. Instead of always using the stick, let's use the carrot. So anyways, I think this is just another thing that's going to go totally foobar, and that sucks. And I think people are going to get hurt because of it. And I hope they fire that governor post haste, because she sounds like a real piece of work. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you think about all this in ye old comments below. Hit the notification bell, the like, I think it's over there somewhere, and subscribe. I love you. Peace.
On the track.